Thank you all so much for being out bright and early this morning. Okay, thank you. My name is DrAllisonUpshaw, and today we're going to be talking about my project, Student Reframing, Narratives of African American Female Land Ownership in the Black Belt. So before I begin with my formal presentation, I just wanted to ask you to think of this session as iron sharpening iron. So I don't know all of the answers, and I'm hoping that was why I came to a conference of archives, is that you would help me figure out the things that I don't know, because I am an opera singer and an actress. And so this was just an idea that popped up in my head, and somebody gave me money to do it. And I thought, okay, sure. I don't want to do it. Yeah. So I'm hoping that experts, that what I talk about today will spark questions for you, and that you're asking me those questions will spark questions for me, and ways that I can engage with my research. So let's get started. Student Reframing, Narratives of African American Female Land Ownership in the Black Belt is a collaborative project designed to use historical records in an artistic endeavor for K-20 students. And by K-20, I mean, in my head, it could be anything from kindergarten all the way up to undergraduate students. It's envisioned as a 2-year collaboration of students, educators, and community-based individuals improving their ability to utilize public records while performing historical research. The public records at this point that I'm thinking about using include but are not limited to birth, marriage, death records, deeds, cemetery records, court documents, census records, tax records, and genealogical data. These public records will provide the foundation for research into the history, culture, and family of African American female landowners in the Alabama Black Belt. In addition to the research of these public records, students will then create character sketches and digital shorts based on the research data and share them with the community at large. Stillman College, a historical black college and university, or HBCU, has agreed to partner on this project. School residencies and professional development workshops will be offered through collaborations with the Stillman College School of Education, the College Department of English, Journalism, and Media Communications, the Alabama Alliance of Arts Education, the Alabama State Council on the Arts, and the Alabama Institute for Education in the Arts, as well as local school systems. The project seeks to address the methodological and pedagogical challenges encountered by educators, students, and community members into the history, culture, and familiar backgrounds of African American female landowners by encouraging the use of public archives and developing informational sharing opportunities through arts integration. The project will use this topic of study to provide participants with experiential pathways into the access and use of public records. So you're hearing this public records over and over again because that's my funder. My funder is the National Historical Publications and Records Commission. And they are interested in how do we get the public more involved with using public records. So we told them over and over again in the grant process. Public engagement with historical records will be facilitated by several means. First, we want to do professional development workshops in the use of public records for educators, and school residencies will be offered by me, a teaching artist, and also some type of archivist. The students will share lessons learned about how to explore public records with the community audience via character sketches and digital shorts. In addition, the increase of the use of historical records will be promoted via community dialogues or talkbacks, conference presentations, and publications. The subject matter content of the reference activities include information about public records, what is available in public records, where public records can be found, et cetera, et cetera. Most importantly, participation in this work will engage public records as a way of empowering young people to research and tell their own stories. So this process that I'm really focusing on for me as an artist is creative nonfiction. Have you heard that term before? Right? So creative nonfiction, for those of you who have not, is taking the facts and adding a little something that is not factual. So for instance, as we are looking, what I'm going to do as the students are doing their research, I'm hoping that they'll get facts. This person was married, this person had 10 kids, this person was an artist or a potter or a baker or something, anything that we can find in the records, in maybe a church document, or anything that we can find about them. But do we know if they did snuff or not? Do we know if they were a smoker or not? Do we know if they walked with a cane or not? And those types of things that don't impact one way or the other the actual factual truth, but actually add interest to the story. So that part we're going to be doing and allow them to record through digital means, like so they'll come up with a character sketch of some ideas that they might have about this person, and create character sketches and share that with the community. So they will be sharing the facts, but with a little interesting twist. I came to this project with two basically inciting incidents. The first was in 2016, my mother was diagnosed with dementia and began living with me full time. And I realized that I needed to collect her stories while she was still remembered. She is currently 93, and I was telling someone she's feisty. And by feisty, I mean she has a great appetite. I was telling someone that, so I said, you're going to eat us out of house and home. She looked at me and said, well, who's wearing the fat, though? Yeah, so 93 and very feisty, and I thought, okay, nobody's going to believe me unless I write this down and tell the story, right? The inciting incident number 2 is that in June of 2020, the Alabama Department of Archives and History issued a statement acknowledging its privileging of the Confederate narrative while neglecting the history of African Americans. So this project facilitates student participation in addressing a void in America's historical knowledge of the lives of Black women in the African American South and their contributions to our society. This knowledge has been lost to most African American families and historians, as well as by the Southern community at large. So hopefully we are filling in a gap of information. The key players in the layering of these narratives are slavery, civil rights, women's rights, and family. So through dramatization, reframing will encourage an understanding of culture and history through the lens of creative nonfiction. This combination of historical and artistic endeavor will demonstrate that the power of Black women's stories can be examined and reclaimed. Specifically, this multi-layered endeavor uses music, drama, and dance as mediums to share life stories. And by braiding their lived experience into the Southern narrative, this project captures and fills a historical void of the strength, power, and resilience of Southern Black women. The ultimate objective is to show how historical data encapsulated in public records can enhance an understanding of an untold history of African American people. By having students participate in this compelling project to access public records in search of Black female landowners, they gain hands-on experience in gleaning information from public records in order to examine and reclaim the African American story. So as I have moved through refining this project idea, I'm thinking of partnering specifically with teachers who are preparing students to go on to college. So this could be an introductory research practice. So they get the opportunity to figure out what research looks like as an undergraduate student. They'll engage with, I realized that it was a little broad, right? So I needed to narrow that down. So I'm working with a group that will do a preliminary search of public records and come up with a group of women, a list of names, and then we can kind of steer the students in the direction of looking up these particular women that we already know there's information to be found, so that hopefully they get the experience of doing this research, but also the opportunity to be successful, right? right? So that they understand, oh, I can do research. I know what this is like. I can do this. So college will not be some scary thing, and when they hear it in college that, hey, we want you to do this research project, I've never heard of such a thing. So we want to help them be prepared. Let's see, I want to keep going. The historical records that provide insight to these women's lives will come from counties that make up the Alabama Black Belt. It is known, of course, for the rich black soil that provided a robust cotton crop for the American South, and at one time was part of the wealthiest region of the state. But now these counties, according to the 2018 Small Area Income and Poverty Estimate, or SALA, I think I'm pronouncing that right, are remembered or noted as having some of the highest rates of poverty for women and youth in the state, as well as some of the lowest median household incomes across the entire Black Belt region. And the Black Belt region, of course, extends from Texas all the way to West Virginia, and we just have our little 17-county section of that, right? Ongoing issues of high unemployment rates, substandard education systems, poor healthcare access, environmental and socioeconomic racism, and rural flight feed a legacy of generational poverty that a special report from the UN disparaged as unheard of in a first world country. Yet this is not all there is to the narrative of Alabama's Black Belt. And this project aims to utilize public records to present a more inclusive perspective. In recounting the Black Belt's lived experiences only through a deficit narrative, we lose the subtleties of survival that Black women have engaged throughout their enslaved journeys in the Americas. It is my hope that as the members of the intended audience for this project see the information students find through this engagement, they will themselves inspire others to challenge the deficit narrative of their own family stories. So my sample of reframing the story of an African American family through research is an example of how more enriched truth can emerge. So I am from Forest Home, Alabama, which is right outside of Greenville, right up the road. My family's home is about 20 miles outside of exit 130. And I live in a place called Ridgeville, the Ridgeville community, or locally referred to as the Ridge. It is a small African-American family-oriented community. The current community members trace their heritage back to the slaves freed from the local plantation near the end of the Civil War. Family narratives know that after the slave owner was killed in the Civil War, his sister freed the slaves and divided the land amongst them. An examination of my own matriarchal lineage and public records inspired this project. My story is one of a third-generation female landowner in this community. My grandmother, Clara May Lewis Adams, was the only child of Henry Lewis, the son of a freed slave. The land was considered part of heir property. Are you familiar with heir property? H-E-I-R, heir property. So heir property, in a time where people did not read and when communities, children didn't go that far. So land was just passed down, right, to the family. There wasn't a deed involved, right? So the challenge that doesn't in and of itself present an issue until now. So now we've got children moving away, right? We have, so the way heir property works, say I have 4 children and 100 acres. Each of them are going to get 25 acres and that's it, right? No. That's common sense math. Heir property math says that each child gets 1/4 of every single acre. So who gets to sell and who gets to decide and how do you decide what happens, and that's heir property. And that's what happens when people don't read and then it opens the door for mismanagement. It opens the door for their, so for instance, son 1 moves away, needs some money, can sell his portion and bring a total stranger to the table now. Suppose that stranger says, you know what, I want my money back. That stranger can force everyone to sell their land to get their money out of it. You can sell it out from under the original owners, like the parents, because they're still living on the land, but maybe they went ahead and, well, anyway, so I'm getting off topic, but I just want you to understand that heir property, this was what my family had to deal with. So in the 1990s, we had a lawyer in town who represented, and I'm just sharing, who represented all 21 of the heirs at the same time and divided up the land for them. Usually, people would think that everybody should have their own lawyer. That's not how it works. There's room for questions about how the land was divided. Who made out better? There were a lot of men involved. Did the men make out better than the females?